tradition in the deepest parts of rural China. A game, a test, 9 days, no food, no light, sealed in a tomb. They call it the 9-day hunger. It's supposed to cleanse you, purify. But I found the journal of a man who tried it. His last entry wasn't about hunger. It was about the tally marks on the wall and how they were counting him. The story takes place in the late 1990s in the remote, mountainous region of Sichuan province, China. The atmosphere is characterized by perpetual mist, oppressive silence, and the decaying wooden temples of a long-forgotten, secretive sect. The central location is the 9-star tomb, a small brick-and-mortar structure disguised as a storage shed with a single, heavy stone door. I didn't believe in ghosts, not until I held the journal of Old Man Shen. My research into fringe sects in remote Sichuan led me to the abandoned village of Shuailing. The air there was thick with the scent of wet stone and ancient dread. The villagers who left in the 70s took their belongings, but left their secrets. And their most terrifying secret was the ritual of the 9-day hunger. It wasn't a punishment, it was a pilgrimage, an extreme fast performed inside the 9-star tomb, a cramped, underground chamber carved into the hillside. 9 days of absolute sensory deprivation, believed to achieve spiritual clarity. The chamber had a single, massive stone door, sealed from the outside. No air vents, save for a tiny, crooked gap near the top. I found the tomb, almost by accident, hidden behind a collapsed shrine. And right outside, half buried in the clay, was Shen's journal. His script was initially crisp, the thoughts of a man determined to prove his faith. Day 1, Shen wrote of the stillness, the overwhelming black. The seal is set. The air is cool. I feel the weight of the mountain above me. Already the silence is a noise. Day 2, the first physical strain, the dizziness, the tremor in his hands as he etched his daily tally mark, a perfect vertical line, into the plaster wall with a small piece of slate he'd brought. The hunger is a sharp thing, but the true battle is with the imagination. The darkness shapes itself into the faces of the departed. Day 3. Here the script began to waver. He described a sound, not a voice, not a whisper, but a scuttling, like heavy grain being shifted just outside the stone door. I pressed my ear to the stone. Nothing. I must be hearing the blood rushing in my ears. I am fasting, not fracturing. He drew his tally mark, and beside it, a nervous, hesitant circle. Day 4, the temperature he noted had dropped. He mentioned a sudden, overwhelming chill that didn't feel natural. He wrote, I coughed. The sound was swallowed instantly. The tomb is not just quiet, it consumes sound. And the hunger is not the worst thing. The worst is the certainty that I am not alone.
Shen drew his tally, but this time he recorded a horrifying observation. I checked the previous marks. The line for day 2, it has been added to, It now has a faint horizontal strike through its center. Someone is marking my fast too. Someone is in here.
The realization hit me like a physical blow. The tomb was sealed. How could an extra mark appear? I ran my fingers over the journal's thin, brittle paper, feeling the indentations of his slate. Day 5. Shen was frantic. His writing was now a scratchy, hurried mess. He was no longer counting the days of his fast. He was counting the other marks. The Day 4 tally is complete. Not by my hand. A full cross. I spoke. I screamed at the wall. Only my own echo returned. The lack of light is a gift to it. It sees me. It is tracking my endurance. He described dragging his slate piece across the floor, hoping to hit something, a hidden alcove, an intruder, anything. He hit nothing but rough earth. Day 6. The psychological terror was complete. Shen was rationing his air, convinced the thing near the door was somehow breathing it, making the cold air thinner. I sleep against the far wall now. The door is the mouth of the tomb, and on the door side wall I heard a new sound, scratching, but from the plaster itself, not the slate, a fingernail. Long, delicate. He didn't draw a tally for Day 6. Instead, he drew a small, crude map of the chamber. On the wall opposite the door, he drew 5 dots. They are here. They are watching. They have my marks. I will not give them another. Day 7. A revelation. Cold and terrible. Shen had found the small gap near the top of the stone seal, the tiny air hole. He wrote of pushing his eye up to it, desperately hoping for a sliver of the midnight moon. He saw nothing outside, only black, but when he pulled his eye back, he felt the air move, a quick, warm puff of breath across his eyelid. It wasn't outside. It was in the gap. It was looking back in.
This time, the revelation was about the tally marks. Shen realized they were not just counting his days. The tally marks were shaped like the ancient character for Ren, meaning person or human. The completed cross was the character for 10. It's not counting days, it's counting me. The 4 lines of my fast. The 5th line is its claim, and tonight, I fear, it wants to finish the 10.
Day 8. The final, near illegible scrawl. The ink was mixed with something dark, maybe blood, maybe just the damp earth he had been clawing at. The light is coming. I see the crack of dawn through the gap. But I cannot move. My limbs are heavy. I heard the door groan. Not the seal, the stone itself. It sounded like a heavy sigh. And then, from the other side of the room, near the far wall where I was hiding, I heard the sleet scratching. This was his last comprehensible thought. Day 9. The paper was smeared, ripped. The only mark left was a single, perfect, and terrifyingly symmetrical cross. A 10. My breath hitched. Old Man Shen was supposed to be released on Day 9.
I gripped the journal, my flashlight beam shaking. I was standing maybe 10 feet from the 9-star tomb. The air was cold, but the silence was the real killer. I knew I had to open it. I grabbed the edge of the stone seal, bracing myself for the unimaginable effort. It was far lighter than it looked, too light. It slid with a sickeningly smooth sh sound, revealing the black mouth of the tomb. I shone the light inside. The chamber was empty. No body, no bones, only the damp earth floor and the cracked plaster walls. But there, covering every inch of the wall, not just 4 marks, not just 5, were hundreds of tiny, deliberate tally marks. All of them were the character for she, 10. The entire tomb was a ledger of things that had been counted. I stood frozen in the doorway. Then my flashlight beam landed on the far wall where Old Man Shen had drawn his 5 dots. Right beside them, etched recently and deeply into the plaster, was a 6th dot. As I stared, I heard a faint, deliberate sound. A small click, the sound of the slate piece being dropped onto the earth. I snapped my head around, shining the light into the darkness outside the tomb. Nothing. But when I looked back at the slate near the 6th dot, I saw it shift just an inch. Then, from the crooked gap at the top of the stone seal, the one I had just opened, a single, thin sliver of paper fluttered down and landed at my feet. It was a fragment of the journal's last page, and in Shen's hurried, terrified script was one final, chilling sentence. Now it is my turn to count the living.
This journal was recovered in 2001 by a research team, only to vanish from their evidence locker a week later. The tomb was resealed, and a large stone marker now stands before the entrance. It is carved with the single Chinese character, Ren.
You've seen their stories, but the darkness has only just begun.